It's time for the Left of Lansing Friday Short with Pat Johnston.
Here's the Friday Short for March 7th of 2025. Earlier this week, Dear Leader Trump took to social media to continue his ongoing assault against higher education. In his post, Dear Leader is threatening to withhold federal funding for colleges, universities, and other public schools that allow quote-unquote illegal protests. Dear Leader said, "Agitators will be imprisoned or permanently sent back to the country from which they came." And there's the story right there, because I was unsure what Dear Leader and MAGA Republicans meant by quote-unquote illegal protesting, but it's obvious for now that they mean anyone who's protesting the extreme right-wing Israeli government's ethnic cleansing of Palestinians in Gaza. Although, in the future, it could mean protesting Wall Street banksters or Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Now, not only did this announcement make the white Christian nationalists and neocons inside the Musk-Trump regime salivate, but it also helps the Christian nationalist and corporate authoritarian shared goal of chipping away at this nation's higher education system. For example, last month, the regime said it was capping the amount of overhead universities charge to federal research grants from the National Institutes of Health to 15%. You see, sometimes costs come in a little more than expected when researching cures for diseases like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, or cancer. But these research funding cuts could also cost University of Michigan, for example, over $170 million, and Michigan State University over $20 million. Money that is used not only for research, but helps create jobs and helps build communities. Oh, and lest we forget how Musk and Dear Leader celebrated their actions earlier, in which they slashed funding for pediatric cancer research and treatment, which is pretty much in line with MAGA Republican way of thinking that you care about kids only until they emerge from the birth canal. Now, a federal judge has temporarily blocked Elon and Dear Leader from issuing these National Institute of Health cuts in a lawsuit brought forth by a number of states, Michigan being part of that group. And that's a little good news, but it still has to go through the courts. However, this battle to defund higher education and public education continues for MAGA Republicans. And as Western Michigan University education scholar Dr. Julian Vasquez-Heilig described on this week's show, they're using the purse to pursue their ideological power over higher education institutions.
First, they started with DEI. You will not receive federal funding if you have DEI. Now they're saying you will not receive federal funding if you have student protests on your campus. And so this is a very slippery slope, because what is next? Is it unions? Is the Trump administration going to say you will not get federal funding if you have campus unions, faculty unions, or graduate student unions?
You see, defunding public education has always been a hallmark of right-wing politics, and you can study former Chilean dictator Augusto Pinochet back in the 1970s, who in one of his first moves was to take government control of the classroom. One of Pinochet's edicts included imposing strict penalties, including dismissal on teachers and professors who failed to follow the regime's decisions on what is to be taught in the classroom. Sound familiar? And these attacks by MAGA Republicans on higher education don't just happen in a vacuum. They will affect all of us, while those at the top rake in all of the cash and all of the financial and political power as the rest of us lose ours. leftoflansing@gmail.com is the best way to reach me. Listen to this week's episode featuring Dr. Julian Vasquez-Heilig on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, and please make sure to subscribe. Follow Left of Lansing on Blue Sky, Twitter, and Facebook. Take the battle to them.